And so in a sense, when I think about technology and this question of simplicity, I realize it changes based upon your context. It's a question of, are you in a rush? Or can you spare the time to smell the roses? It changes how you want to be with time. Sometimes if you're in pain, you want it to go away. But if you have pleasure, you want it to stay. So it's all this combination. Design is about how you deal with that. Because oftentimes it's impossible to save time. So design is a way to enhance the time you have, to make the time you spend feel better. It's a very subtle point on design. Now, the problem, though, is that we live in the age of technology. And technology realizes progress at light speed. Everything happens so quickly. But electrons travel at light speed, but we people, we don't travel much faster. Like, for instance, if your mobile phone became 2,000 times faster, it wouldn't be a big deal, because we're not that fast, right? You can only type this fast. We're really fast now, right? But you'll never be 100 times faster like this. It's impossible. But the computer can get faster, you see. We can't get faster. So to think about these ideas, I developed the ideas of simplicity in the laws of simplicity. It's a very short book, but it talks about these questions of how technology and design and business come together. And it's roughly 10 laws of simplicity. These laws are used by different large companies, but also even people like wine growers use the laws of simplicity. People who are actually lawyers also use the laws of simplicity. So it's a very simple framework to think about simplicity. And it's, if you just type it on the web, it shows up on the web. Now, one thing I'm very passionate about more than ever is the fact that in these hard economic times, when the world has changed, I've noticed that many countries are focusing on more emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Basically, we're in a time when people believe that we have to have more technology will make the world better again. But I've begun to question that, because this so-called STEM, it's called STEM, that's how we make things faster, larger, but does it make it better? I don't think so. You need art and design to make things better. So one thing we're thinking about at RISD is, how do you turn STEM, S-T-E-M, into S-T-A-M? Add the art into that, STEAM. That's the question. And so what I've been working on at RISD is talking about a different approach to thinking, the idea-based approach, where the A stands for art, the D stands for design, I for intuition, E for emotion. And so with the idea-based approach, intuition, design, emotion, I believe it's an important counterpart to STEM. Because innovation is a combination of these two things: STEM, left brain thinking; idea, right brain thinking. Now, at RISD, because we are an art and design school, I see art and design every day. Art and design done in a way where the hand is more important than anything else. And having integrity of process is critical in making art and design. And we represent roughly 20 different departments, disciplines, all grounded in the liberal arts, all grounded in a very strong foundational year program. So we have a system at RISD that makes our artists and designers very deep thinkers, very conceptual thinkers. And what happens because of it is, I've noticed that when you bring a new technology to RISD, our artists reinterpret it in new ways. When you bring complex problems in design to RISD, our designers find new ways. This is an example by one of our graduates. It's a visualization of CNN, web traffic, where he shows that the most important events in world history are when Michael Jackson died. So things like that appear in these kind of visualizations. Also, at RISD, I've noticed that everyone has dirty hands. This idea of getting your hands dirty, to try things out, to make it, and failure is okay. It's part of the creative process. And because of that, I've seen that this idea of innovation, as I was saying, innovation, STEM, IDEA, this idea kind of innovation is core and critical to RISD. You know, at RISD, I walk around campus, and one time I saw this sign. It says, bicycles secured to handrail are subject to removal without notice. It means don't park your bicycle here. But somebody wrote, why? In chalk. And I asked myself, why? I don't know why. The bicycle is okay here. Why? I don't know why. And a week later, someone had torn off the sign. I noticed, kind of a vandal, tore off the sign. And someone wrote, why not? You know? So I think of that kind of instinct of art, idea-based thinking. It's humorous, it's human, which is critical to how we think at RISD. Things like this happen all the time, where artists are innovating. It's a perfect sized bed for one person. So this is kind of innovation, right brain innovation that balances out the left brain innovation. So both left and right brain innovation is so important today. And part of what I'm talking about is that these kind of ideas of art and design don't have to just sit in art and design. They can sit into the area of leadership. How people lead is very important. People are asking for how do we find new ideas. I believe you have to have new kinds of leaders. Leaders who are not just the traditional leader, but instead the creative leader. You know, the traditional leader is a kind of authority figure, whereas the creative leader is a symbol of inspiration, someone that brings people along. A traditional leader is about yes or no, whereas a creative leader is okay with maybe. So maybe is a possible answer. A traditional leader is concerned with being right. They have to be right. Whereas an artist and designer doesn't care about being right. They care about being real to themselves and to what they believe in. Also, a traditional leader hates to have mistakes. You know, risk is a terrible thing. Whereas a creative leader loves to learn from mistakes, a chance to adapt and change. A traditional leader wants to be right. A creative leader just hopes to be right, because often all you can do is just hope. If it's a hard thing to do, you're very likely to fail. And lastly, for a traditional leader, your opinion matters, whereas a creative leader really wants to know what you're thinking. So these modes of leadership, I believe, are where art and design are beginning to enter. It's something I'm doing involved with the World Economic Forum at Davos, a gathering of 2,000 world leaders, to bring art and design as central to questions of the world's future policy. The fact that art and design isn't just about the creativity in making, but the creativity of how we think. And if you think about leaders as being their domain as authoritative and creative, you can think about how Steve Jobs is over here in the creative authoritative space, the Google guys are the creative space, Margaret Thatcher, authoritative, and President Obama is a creative person, but in a very authoritative domain. And leaders fit into this whole spectrum. And the question I have for all audiences of people in the creative fields, you know, where do you place yourself as a kind of leader that you lead your teams with, or in the future how you'll make questions about how you lead different groups that you're part of? So to summarize, I believe that these four components, art, design, technology, and business, are converging. The fact that STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, we have to turn STEM into STEAM. We have to bring art into the equation. I talked about how there's this RISD idea, a way of thinking based on intuition, design, emotion, and art, and how innovation combines left brain and right brain thinking, technology and art and design. And lastly, the question of creative leaders is a very important thing for all of you to consider as you mature in the roles you are in. How do you adopt art and design in how you think, act, and lead? Thank you.